Right now at 7, we bring you breaking news. One of the largest earthquakes in recorded history has struck off Russia's Pacific coast, leaving the entire Bay Area coastline under a tsunami advisory.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Good evening. We begin tonight with that breaking news out of Far East Russia. An 8.8 earthquake has put the entire California coast, including the Bay Area, under a tsunami advisory. So the earthquake hit just before 4:30 p.m. our time, just off Russia's Pacific coast. Now, according to the USGS, 8.8 is tied for the 6th strongest earthquake ever recorded. So let's take a live look at Honolulu right now. Tsunami warning sirens have been blaring in the city, warning people to move to higher ground. The entire state of Hawaii is under a tsunami warning. The first waves are expected to hit just after 7 p.m. Hawaii time, which is 10 p.m. our time. So Hawaii is on full alert. They open their emergency operations center as they prepare for dangerous ocean conditions. All right, let's take a live look out at the ocean from Pacifica. Right now, the entire West Coast, including the Bay Area, under a tsunami advisory. So that's less severe than a warning and what Hawaii is facing. The National Weather Service saying any effects here would happen after midnight. So let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Paul Hagan with more on the tsunami advisory.
Yeah, Jules, it's in effect for the entire West Coast, and this is what the Tsunami Warning Center issues when significant inundation, a significant inland push is not likely, but still there are going to be dangerous conditions along the immediate coastline and for anyone who's actually in the water. So dangerous currents, and this would not be the best night to be out on a houseboat, for instance. Some of those locations you want to find your way to a safer spot because even less than a 1-foot surge, which is what we're expecting, is still energetic enough to do some damage, especially in terms of coastal erosion, maybe some damage to any structures right along the immediate coastline or anything that is in the water. This is the location of that earthquake. This is off the east coast of Russia. The landmass there is the Kamchatka Peninsula. Magnitude 8.8 earthquake struck at 4:24 our time. This is a very strong earthquake. In fact, if we look at the earthquake magnitude scale, this is close to a 9.0. I mentioned that this is the 6th strongest, tied for the 6th strongest earthquake in recorded history. Now, that goes back several decades, doesn't necessarily go back to the entire history of the planet, far from it. But still, in that 9 range, we are talking about just exceptional amounts of energy being released. Near total destruction, we've had reports of 3 to 4 meter tsunami waves hitting the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. This is going to do a significant amount of damage there. And just the amount of energy released, it's equivalent to 1 trillion pounds of conventional explosive. Just a mind-boggling amount of energy being released, and the tsunami waves radiate away from the center of that earthquake. So there are tsunami warnings and tsunami advisories. The warnings are in purple, the advisories are in yellow for the Aleutian Island chain extending away from the mainland of Alaska. For Hawaii, it's a tsunami warning as well. The first waves are going to be hitting the northwestern Hawaiian island chain around 7 o'clock this evening and then making their way farther down to the southeast across the rest of the Hawaiian island chain. Most likely scenario is for 1 to 3 meter waves, which means roughly between about 3 and 9 feet. But depending on the topography of exactly where those waves make their way on shore, whether it either crashes up against the cliffs or if it's a flatter landscape, can make its way much, much farther inland. The waves are going to be much lower as they approach the west coast of the United States. Most locations expecting less than that 1-foot surge. That is the case for the coastline of the Bay Area, expected to hit around San Francisco around 12:40 in the morning, so just after midnight tonight. Again, less than 1 foot may sound like, okay, that's not much water, but those even low waves are very energetic and can do damage right along the coast. It's something we're going to have to continue to monitor, and the Tsunami Warning Center is going to continue recalculating all of this data just in case there is a bit more energy associated with this. The initial magnitude of the earthquake that caused this was initially estimated to be 8.0. They've revised it all the way up to 8.8. So this is still something that's a bit in flux. I'll be back with an update on the situation in terms of the tsunami and then a look at our weather forecast for midweek tomorrow coming up in just a few minutes. Juliette?
All right, Paul, helpful information. Thank you so much. Japan also under a tsunami advisory. So these are live pictures from the coast near Kushiro, Japan. People in low-lying areas are being told to move inland. And then let's go to some aerials showing the coastline. This is in Hokkaido Prefecture in northern Japan. The tsunami wave of about a foot has been reported in the northern islands, which are just about 160 miles away from the epicenter. So no immediate reports of damage there. The most recent tsunami scare in the Bay Area happened last December, if you recall, after a 7.0 quake struck off northern California coast. Thousands of people in Pacifica raced to higher ground with cars backing up for miles on Highway 1 as people tried to get out of town. That tsunami warning was canceled about an hour later. And then if we go back to 2011, the tsunami roared across the Pacific, causing significant damage to the Santa Cruz harbor after a 9.0 quake in Japan. It caused an estimated $20 million in damage to the harbor. All right, so joining us now is Dr. Amy Williamson, a seismologist and tsunami scientist at UC Berkeley. Thanks so much for joining us. First things first, I think we all want to talk about what's going to happen here in the Bay Area. So if we're looking at what happens in Hawaii, will it decrease intensity by the time it arrives here? And what may happen in Hawaii?
Yeah, so what we would expect is that as that tsunami travels across the Pacific, it will lose a little bit of that energy. And so what we really expect here are strong currents. So that means it's really important to, stay away from coastlines, stay off the docks, kind of like that footage you showed. You should really just stay out of the water. Now, over in Hawaii, they're still looking at and forecasting, but expecting a little bit more elevated, so potential for some coastline flooding and also those strong currents and extending over many hours.
Okay, so that's some reassuring information. How do scientists determine the potential danger from the waves?
Yeah, so we have a large network of buoys that sit all throughout the Pacific and the Atlantic. And so right now, scientists at the Tsunami Warning Center are taking data from those buoys and then using a lot of different models to look at the potential tsunami heights as it reaches Hawaii, as it reaches the coastline here. And then expect that over the course of the night, as that tsunami moves through the Pacific, they may start updating some of those forecasts as they get more data.
What can we learn from reports of what's happening in Japan? What does that tell us about what we might expect here in the Bay Area?
Well, those reports kind of confirm what people expect. There is, in fact, a tsunami as it's moving along the coastlines there. We should really make sure that we heed all of the warnings here and know that we could also potentially have those strong currents and dangers along the coastline. So using that information to know that we should take that seriously here.
All right. Well, we'll stay in touch with you and have more on our 11 o'clock news and throughout the evening streaming online, CBS News Bay Area. Dr. Amy Williamson, thank you so much for being available to us. Again, we're going to track this, the Russian earthquake and the tsunami threat to Hawaii and California. We'll have updates on our air, on our CBS News Bay Area stream, and also on KPIX.com, and of course tonight at 11 o'clock on KPIX5. All right, let's turn to other news now. Tonight, the Contra Costa County DA's office announced it's charged a second person in the sexual abuse case involving a Delta Airlines co-pilot. Now, the second suspect is a 45-year-old woman, and we're working to learn her connection to the case. Her arrest comes after investigators took Delta Airlines pilot Rostam Bagwagar into custody from the cockpit right after his flight landed at SFO on Saturday. He faces 24 felony charges, including engaging in a sexual act with a child. He's being held on $15 million bail. Both suspects could face 15 years to life in prison. Now, his arraignment is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon in Martinez. All right, on to San Francisco. The Sunset District is normally a quiet neighborhood. But locals say dangerous and disruptive sideshows have taken over in recent months, and they asked local leaders to put an end to it. So our Lauren Toms shows us how their cries for help are already paying off.
The very first one woke us up, so it's kind of out of the dead of sleep.
Loud screeches and spinning tires jolted residents of this quiet Sunset District neighborhood awake. Pastor Abraham Lee lives and works nearby. He was startled as dozens gathered at the intersection of 42nd and Lawton for a late-night sideshow. The skid marks still scar the pavement.
These folks, they obviously knew what they were doing. They had all their license plates covered up with duct tape and other things so that even if a photo were taken of their cars, they wouldn't be able to easily identify them.
He's witnessed multiple sideshows just outside his door. This video from May is one of several incidents in recent months. Pastor Abe says it wasn't just the noise. It was seeing how young many of the participants were that made him reach out to District Supervisor Joel Engardio for help. And this week, help arrived in a humble form. 4 speed bumps installed at the troubled intersection.
These barriers allow for normal traffic flow. It's not going to affect the cars going through the intersection in a normal way. But if you're going to do donuts, your tires are going to hit that barrier and it's going to do some damage to your car.
The Sunset is just one of 6 districts in San Francisco where the city has installed sideshow deterrents in the form of bumps like these, posts, and centerline hardening measures that slow down left-turning traffic. Just feet from 42nd and Lawton, Leah owns an interior design shop. Not only was her building graffitied during one recent sideshow, her car was also damaged in another sideshow just blocks away.
Happened at our house. It smashed into our car, into our garage. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely is a possibility that I know of firsthand.
Sideshows in San Francisco peaked in 2021 with more than 70 documented incidents. Last year, that number dropped to at least 15, in part due to new laws that increase penalties for drivers and participants. Video from the May incident shows SFPD creeping in to disperse the sideshow.
Because the crowd of people was so large, it took a good 10 minutes for them to be able to clear out of that area.
Pastor Abe is hopeful the speed bumps will make a difference. He says the true danger isn't just the noise or damage. It's the lives at stake when the stunts go wrong.
If a car loses it, it's going to run through at least 50 of those kids before it gets to our house. That's a lot of bodies that it has to get through before it can actually touch us. And I'm more worried about the people that are going to get hurt in the process. So it might do something, and I hope it does. We're going to hold out hope.
Today, San Francisco Supervisor Myrna Melgar also unveiled a bill that would commit the city to relaunch its Vision Zero program. So back in 2014, city leaders set a goal of reducing traffic deaths to 0 by 2024. Instead, last year was the deadliest on San Francisco's streets in the last 2 decades. Today, San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie signed a sweeping RV ban into law at City Hall. So what it's done is it's designed to prevent RVs and other oversized vehicles from parking overnight on city streets.
Life in an RV can't offer that. It isolates families. It leaves them behind. In a city with as many resources as ours, we can't accept that.
The law sets a 2-hour parking limit for oversized vehicles. The policy is expected to impact about 400 RVs in the city. Just last week, the Coalition on Homelessness organized a silent protest through City Hall. Opponents of the RV ban say it strips vulnerable communities, that is, of their only housing. A rally outside the federal courthouse in San Francisco in an effort to protect roughly 60,000 migrants who are in danger of losing their temporary protected status. The Trump administration has set a deadline for immigrants from Honduras, Nepal, and Nicaragua to lose their legal status. And today, arguments were heard in a lawsuit challenging that decision. And John Ramos was there.
When the deportations began, we were told they were going to focus on the criminal element. Then the quotas kicked in, and the argument changed to anyone here illegally is a criminal. Now, even migrants that the government says are here legally are being targeted for removal. Perhaps it is a symbol of how happy they are to be in this country that the Latin immigrants began their protest with a dance party.
They have built their lives here. Some have bought homes, raised children, pursued their educations and their dreams.
But the issue was deadly serious. Holders of TPS status come from 17 countries that the U.S. government has decreed to be too dangerous, either from repressive governments or natural disasters. Cindy Alama fled her native land of Nepal following a devastating earthquake in 2015.
I was deeply grateful my country was in crisis, and returning would not have been safe. TPS allowed me to work, support my family, and live here without fear. Now, nearly 20 years later, this country is my home. Yes. Home.
But on August 5th, her legal status will be revoked, with the same happening to people from Nicaragua and Honduras the following month. TPS was created in 1990 when the U.S. got involved in a civil war in El Salvador and needed a way to protect refugees from the conflict. Now, those here under that protection face an uncertain future.
The government has broken its promise, violated the law. So these brave individuals are here today in federal court to say that the law still means something. And President Trump and DHS Secretary Noem are not above the law.
Stepping forward is not without risk, but Johnny Silva, who moved from Honduras as a toddler, says it's also a matter of conscience.
I joined this lawsuit because I feel it in my heart that I have to speak up for people and for others like me. The government's decision to terminate TPS for Hondurans and others, many other countries, doesn't just hurt TPS holders, it hurts our families, our friends, and our communities.
This was the lawsuit's first hearing before a federal judge. President Trump tried to end TPS in his first term, but it was held up in the courts.
TPS was essential in the early 90s and continues to be, was essential when the hurricanes took place and continues to be essential now, and we have to protect it.
The Department of Homeland Security is arguing that there is no more threat in those designated countries. But those who have spent decades living as Americans say they deserve a chance for permanent residency.
The Department of Homeland Security has ordered that TPS holders from the 3 countries be stripped of their legal status and work authorization in 60 days. An emotional day for friends, family, and colleagues of a parole agent who was shot and killed inside the Oakland office where he worked. A procession in honor of Joshua Byrd wound its way through the streets of Rockland and Roseville today, and that was followed by a funeral service in Rockland. Byrd was shot and killed earlier this month when a man on parole allegedly walked into the office on Edgewater Drive and shot him. Police say Byrd was not that man's parole officer. Byrd was 40 years old and a husband and father to 3 children. Still ahead, how Vallejo is trying to deal with a massive rat infestation at the city's ferry terminal. Today in Monterey County, crews recovered the wreckage of the plane that crashed into the water this weekend, killing 3 people. The small plane plunged into the ocean near Point Pinos in Pacific Grove, and you can see a helicopter pulling up large sections of the plane. The plane had taken off from San Carlos Airport late Saturday. The victims are from Salinas and Monterey. The U.S. Coast Guard and FAA are still investigating just how the crash happened. A high-tech treasure hunt caused a scare in the South Bay today. A container shut down a VTA light rail station and tied up emergency response services for hours. So the object was placed at the Winchester Light Rail Station in Campbell as part of an online treasure hunt game. Authorities said it strongly resembled a pipe bomb. So law enforcement shut down train and bus service to the station just after 11 a.m., evacuated a nearby school. Roads were closed as officials investigated. So Santa Clara's bomb squad determined the object wasn't a threat and lifted restrictions just a couple of hours later. All right, on to pest control. Sorry if you're eating right now. It was in full force today to battle a rat infestation at Vallejo's ferry terminal. So crews are continuing their inspections. They're laying out traps. It comes as reports of rodents in the area have spiked. Some residents like Linjay say it's become their new normal.
It's gross. Like, I wouldn't go in there and eat because there was like so many. There was more than 5 playing in the grass, and then they'll go by the benches and under people's legs and stuff. It's gross.
When you say big, like, what are you talking about?
Like, phone to a little bit bigger than my phone.
Okay, so we're going to spare you the visuals on that, but city officials maintaining the health and safety of the public is their top priority, as it should be. Okay. All right. On to that. We have more pressing news right now, and we're talking about tsunami advisories and warnings. And let's talk about what we have in the Bay Area and what we should know.
So what we have is a tsunami advisory. It's in effect for the Bay Area and the whole west coast of the U.S. That means that while there's going to be a mass of water approaching the coast, the height of it's going to be about a foot for the Bay Area. It's mainly the effect on currents. Right. So this isn't like, if you're thinking of like, what was the movie with Naomi Watts after the
that's our visuals that come out.
You think of this wall of water coming in. It's going to be a series of waves that aren't going to be that much higher than the ordinary tide, but even those low magnitude waves still have a lot of energy. And so that can do some damage to piers, any structures right along the coast, and can bounce boats around to a pretty good extent. And that's a concern for anybody who's living on a houseboat in one of the many marinas around the Bay Area. So let's start by talking about the tsunami advisory that is in effect for the entire West Coast. Again, this is a tsunami warning for Hawaii. That's a higher level of concern. We're going to be monitoring that as the waves approach the Hawaiian island chain here within about the next little over 2 hours or so. But for the Bay Area, what we expect is the waves to reach the coast just after midnight. But again, less than a 1 foot surge of water hitting the coast. It's still energetic, but we're not expecting any significant push of water, no significant inundation making its way farther away from the immediate coastline of the Bay Area. So still something we're going to continue to monitor. It's still potentially in the realm of possibility that these numbers would change a little bit. Once the waves actually reach Hawaii, we're going to get a good read on exactly how the wave heights are correlating to the forecast that has come out from the Tsunami Warning Center, and that will allow us to kind of revise the numbers as that wave continues to progress across the rest of the Pacific Ocean closer to us just after midnight. The good news is it's after midnight. There's not going to be anybody out there swimming or anything like that. Weather-wise, well, there's the fog rolling through the Golden Gate. Still some sunshine peeking through it. Temperatures were on the cool side for most of the Bay Area, but it was still one of the warmest days that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. Still going to run below average for high temperatures over the course of the next several days. Right now, we're anywhere from 60 degrees in San Francisco to 77 degrees in Concord. Not very warm for one of the last evenings of July. It's been an unusually cool month of July, an unusually cool summer so far for most of the Bay Area. And of course, the fog is a big part of that. Let's simulate that fog on our floor map here. It's going to make a big inland push as we head through the rest of tonight. A little bit of drizzle possible closer to the coast, including San Francisco, where we've had 8 days so far in the month of July with at least 1/100th of an inch of moisture. It's hard to call it actual rain, but at least moisture. But tomorrow might be the 9th day, which would be the most in a month of July on record in San Francisco, and the record keeping goes back to 1850. But this fog will pull out of the inland valleys within the first few hours of daylight tomorrow, and we are going to see that continuing to impact how our temperatures behave. Cleared the wrong thing off the map there. Let's take a look at our forecast highs for tomorrow, and we're going to see those ranging from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s. Some warmer spots in the Santa Clara Valley, getting up into the low to mid 80s around Los Gatos and Morgan Hill. Mid 70s for San Jose, while temperatures east of the Oakland Hills, 77 in Concord. That's not too bad. Mid 70s in Livermore, 80s for Livermore and in Antioch and Brentwood, with a mix of 60s and 70s around the Bay, mostly low 60s along the coast, and for the North Bay, a mix of 70s and some 80s. 87 degrees in Healdsburg will actually be one of the warmest spots around the entire Bay Area. Looking a little bit farther down the line, let's look at the whole East Coast, or the whole West Coast of the United States, and the 8 to 14-day outlook, which takes us into early August. And there is a signal now as we head into the new month that it's actually going to feel like summertime, a decent signal towards warmer than normal temperatures, especially for the north coast of California and up into Oregon, but pretty good sign around the Bay Area as well that we are going to break out of the consistently cool pattern that we have been in for so much of the summertime months so far. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast. Again, we're not going to be seeing any extreme heat anytime soon. Temperatures at their warmest inland approaching 90 degrees by Monday and Tuesday of next week, which for early August really isn't bad at all. Temperatures around the Bay are also going to warm up, but only up into the middle portion of the 70s by next Monday and Tuesday as we start off that first full week of August with a, I think, modest warm up at best or at worst, depending on your perspective. And temperatures along the coast, well, you're not going to see any huge changes, just a little bit farther into the 60s. In the short term, you get plenty of that low cloud cover and fog. No sky July, transitioning right into August for coastal parts of the Bay Area. But the coast, of course, the fog, the temperatures aren't the big story. It is that tsunami advisory. We're going to continue monitoring that through the primetime edition on Pix Plus.
Yeah, appreciate all of your information. Thank you so much. Okay, when we come back, they're the people charged with helping others through the process of death, but today they walk the picket line why they say their patients' safety is at risk. Bay Area hospice workers walked off the job today in Pleasant Hill. They say that caseloads and stalled contract talks pushed them to have a one-day strike. An out-of-state chain is set to take over the nonprofit Hospice East Bay. Nurses, social workers, and counselors are pushing for better staffing and patient care protections before this handoff. Nurses say there's been a 50% increase in patient workload, which they say doesn't allow for proper care.
It's more important than ever for workers and patients to have enshrined protections. Our working conditions are directly connected to what I can provide for my patients. I need staffing ratios to continue to provide the community high quality care.
Hospice East Bay released a statement saying, in part, we remain committed to meeting these challenges in a way that honors our mission, strengthens our team, and continues our commitment to the care, safety, and dignity of our patients. Well, Bay Area Hospital is getting recognized as one of the best in the nation. U.S. News and World Report named Santa Clara Valley Medical Center's Rehabilitation Center a top 10 hospital. So it ranked number 7 nationally and best on the West Coast in rehabilitation. The hospital was also rated as high performing in a variety of specialties, including diabetes, heart failure, and maternity. Today, the county's executive officer spoke about the hospital's quality of care and the impact of Medicaid cuts.
So I'm confident that even in the midst of the most significant revenue challenge that we have faced in decades, that we will figure out paths forward to ensure that we preserve access to truly amazing services such as those here, but it's going to be very difficult.
The county said it expects to face $1 billion in lost revenue due to these cuts. Up next, how some South Bay families got some much-needed supplies right before the start of the new school year. Let's get to an update on our breaking news. One of the world's strongest earthquakes struck Russia, prompting a tsunami advisory for the entire West Coast. So the 8.8 quake hit just before 4:30 p.m. our time, just off Russia's Pacific coast. Japan has detected a tsunami of about a foot hitting the country's northern islands. And then let's take a live look at Honolulu now, where tsunami warning sirens have been blaring in the city, warning people to move to higher ground. The entire state of Hawaii is under a tsunami warning, with the first waves expected to hit just after 10 p.m. our time. And now a live look from Pacifica, where the West Coast, including the Bay Area, is under a tsunami advisory, and that's less severe than the warning Hawaii is facing. The National Weather Service saying any effects here would happen after midnight. So stay with us for all of the latest updates on the tsunami advisory and complete coverage tonight at 11 o'clock. All right, let's talk back to school. Back to school season just around the corner, and Sacred Heart Community Services kicked off its annual Pack-a-Back fundraiser in San Jose to help families in need. So they handed out backpacks and school supplies today, and they'll give away more on Thursday. They're also asking for donations that can be dropped off at the nonprofit's campus on South 1st Street. So that goal is to help 4,000 students get the supplies that they need for the upcoming school year.
There's definitely a need in our community. We know that working families are struggling to keep up with the cost of living. So getting free backpacks and school supplies really makes a difference. So it's a really important day, and it's a lot of joy and fun for us here at Sacred Heart.
Yeah, it is. It gets people ready for school. The organization estimates the fundraiser will save families $400 on average. Let's all pitch in. Thanks for watching. The news continues next at 8 on Pix Plus or 44 Cable 12. See you back here at 11 o'clock. Let's pack those